Good morning and welcome to a surprise edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. This is Robert Phoenix and I am taking the week off. This is going to happen. It's going to happen. And I was going to do the live stream last night, but my son got sick on Friday. Really sick. Sick in a way that I haven't seen him sick for a very long time. 3 or 4 were sick. Remember when kids used to get that sick when they were young? Oh boy. Anyway, so he was that sick, and he was sick all the way from the time I picked him up on Friday up through last night. So I just wanted to hang out with him, and that's why we did not do last night's show, or I didn't do last night's show. Now, of course, something always kind of happens, or mostly happens, on a Sunday night, even if it is not a mass shooting as occurred in Las Vegas, or the Weinstein affair took place. Charlie Manson passed away. I wonder what's really waiting for him on the other side. Boy, interesting character, no doubt. And there's always some question about, did Charlie Manson actually... Well, first of all, there are 2 levels. All right, let me set the stage. Charlie Manson was, I think he had about 6 planets in Scorpio. Let me get up his chart here, and we'll take a look at his chart. Give me 1 second. Hold on, here we go. Okay, here we go. Yes. Let's see. Let me go to his astro theme chart. That's probably going to be the one that's going to be the best representation of the man, Manson. So we know he's a Scorpio born November 12th. And today's 11/20. So... he's a Taurus rising. He's got that stellium of planets in Scorpio: Sun, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury. I did a show one time on Gaia about Charlie Manson, so and other things related to the 60s. He also has Pluto in Cancer and Black Moon Lilith down there, 29 degrees Cancer, part of Fortune in Cancer. The Mars Neptune conjunction in the 5th house, exact in. Pretty much exact, separated by about 35 seconds, or hold on, it's 35 minutes. And that's a Mars-Neptune conjunction in the 5th house in Virgo, in that midheaven at 20 Capricorn. So Pluto is conjuncting his midheaven, and then Saturn in Aquarius, true node in Aquarius, and the moon in Aquarius, which is interesting, all in the 10th house. And what did he have amongst him? He had himself a little Aquarian group, didn't he? I mean, they were kind of trying to put together their own version of the Aquarian age on one level with Manson. If you know anything about the history and Spawn Ranch, where they hung out and did all kinds of crazy shit. That included taking LSD, having their heads rewired, having lots of group sex. That was kind of the programming station, was Spawn Ranch out in the California desert. And so what he was putting together was kind of an Aquarian group, right? I mean, these were people that were rejecting the morals and the values and their upbringing from the 1950s, mostly because that's when the majority of them were raised, the 40s and the 50s. And Manson, if you look at some of Manson's quotes, he'll make a ton of sense in a lot of ways. He talks about programming. I mean, I've talked about this before. He talks about programming in the way that sometimes I myself and other people talk about it. And it's fascinating. Let me see if I can pull up some Manson quotes here so you can understand what I'm talking about here. Let me just give you a bird's eye view. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Charles Manson quotes. There we go. See if I can find some good ones here. Okay, listen to this quote. I can't judge any of you. I have no malice against you and no ribbons for you. I'm going to do my Manson voice. But I think that it's high time that you all start looking at yourselves and judging the lie that you live in. Total paranoia is just total awareness. Look down at me and you see a fool. Look up at me and you see a God. Look straight at me and you see yourself. Ooh. Here's another one. You know, a long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy. We're not in Wonderland anymore, Alice. The real strong have no need to prove it to the phonies. Can we do a millennial translation of that? Let's see. What would it be? Like, the legit have no need to prove it to the haters. Sanity is a small box. Insanity is everything. I mean, these could be the quotes of a guru, right? A new age guru. I mean, could you, if I did it, my Anthony Robbins voice? Let me do an Anthony Robbins voice. In my mind's eyes, thoughts light fires in your cities. And you know what most people don't know? Most people don't know that death is the greatest form of love. Let me repeat that. Death is the greatest form of love. The mind is endless. You put me in a dark, solitary cell, and to you, that's the end. To me, it's the beginning. It's the universe in there. There's a world in there. And I'm free. How free are you? Raise your hands if you think you're free. Come on, raise them up. Here's another Charles Manson quote, translated by Anthony Robbins. I know and understand you're much more than what you think you are. But first, I must deal with you the way I think you, even if that's only my thinking and not you. Pain's not bad. It's good. It teaches you things. Am I right? Doesn't pain teach you things? Raise your hand if pain, if you think pain teaches you things. Can I get an amen for pain? I understand that. Now here, I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind, okay? You ready? Are you ready for this? You got to realize you're the devil as much as you're God. Hey, whoa! What is he saying? What is he really saying up there? You see what I'm saying? They're Anthony Robbinsisms. Tony Robbinsisms inside of Manson. That's really fascinating. You look at his midheaven, it's in Aquarius. This is what he was trying to bring about in his own perverted way. Dark way. Now, there's some question as to whether or not Charlie Manson even existed. I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole too, right? He could be George W. Bush, for all we know. You want to have some fun? Go down that rabbit hole. Look up George W. Bush and Charlie Manson. Kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. I wish I could do a Bush. I'd have to work on my George W. Bush. You're either with us or against us. No, that's more of Ross Perot. Anyway, go down that rabbit hole. And then there's the nobody died. Nobody ever dies. Nobody ever dies with anything. It's all just fake. Nobody ever dies. There's that reality. Nobody ever died. Nobody died. So and so became so and so became so and so. And oh, now they're hosting a game show on the Game Show Network. That's how it all goes down. Not quite. I have a very, very dear client and friend over on Facebook who lives in Las Vegas, and she has been there for years. She's not somebody who just showed up last week, last month, last year, and she shared with me very clearly that she knows RNs, she knows a lot of people, and contrary to popular belief that nobody died, she unequivocally stated that yes, people did die, and there are people that are really trying to piece this thing together, and they're completely cratered in Las Vegas. A lot of people that live there. Another one of the stories that hasn't really come out. Now, if you're an RN or you're a nurse, what are you going to do? Let's say, for instance, you were at one of those hospitals where people were being brought in. You think you're going to get some pressure about not talking to people? Where do you think that pressure is going to come from? It's going to come from the top. And where do you think that pressure is coming from? Coming from outside the organization or outside the group or outside the, hospitals or what, companies? They're companies. That's what they are. So what are you going to do? Are you going to not say something, not say anything? Well, good. Say something and lose your job in Las Vegas. Try to find another nursing job in Las Vegas after you get kicked out or fired for talking about something like this. Think about that. Yep. Think about maybe getting another nursing job in the state of Nevada. So then you have to leave Nevada and start your life all over again. Oh, well, excuse me, it looks like, let's see, you go to Dallas. Oh, it looks like you were a nurse in Las Vegas. Can you tell me what happened there? Why you wound up being let go? Well, it's because I talked about people actually dying in the Las Vegas shooting. What do you mean people actually dying? Didn't people die? Well, you see, some people think that nobody died, and I had to come out and say that people actually died. I'm sorry, but don't you think you're a little bit crazy? Shouldn't you just have... You see where that's going? This is what happens. Here's what I think the solution is. This is what I think this would be great. This would be totally great. Is if there could be a fund for people, like a whistleblower fund. But in order for the whistleblower to get money so that they could continue to live, they'd have to pass criterion, right? So if there was like a, $1.5 million emergency fund for whistleblowers, that would be a cool thing, because then they could take a risk and come out and say, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And then they would get compensated. Now, of course, anybody at that point could be a whistleblower, or they could be a fake whistleblower. That's why you have to have the criterion that must be met to be a true whistleblower. So that would be, I think it'd be a cool thing. Aren't there enough philanthropists in this world? We talked about the breakaway society on Friday. And Yvonne brought up a really good point. She's a listener and also a client. And you can go back to the show page or the YouTube page for Friday's show. And she makes a great point. And it makes total sense. She says, would it be great, and I'm paraphrasing here, would it be great if these giants of industry could actually reward people, that they would actually throw their money at making this world a better place versus trying to get off of this world and live off-planet, breakaway civilization? And I thought about it for about 10 seconds. And I thought about, well, who is Jeff Bezos? Who's Jeff Bezos? Does he have a philanthropic and altruistic bone in his body? Well, if you look at how Amazon practices internal business, I mean, this is the This is how people operate inside the walls of Amazon. I'm telling you right now, it is cutthroat. Look up the stories on Amazon and work process or working at Amazon. And you will find that Jeff Bezos promotes a type of Anne Randy. I think Bezos is Anne Randy. Randy for Anne. Ayn Randy. Anyway, he promotes that kind of mentality inside of Amazon, which isn't necessarily bad per se. I mean, theoretically, what Ayn Rand is talking about is a person should be judged upon their achievement, their character, their integrity, their ability to execute a job versus favoritism, nepotism, any kind of ism that props up anything less than what we would call the truth. Distilled, that's not a bad thing to some degree, right? I mean, this is what we all kind of aspire towards, at least the Pluto and Virgo people, because we want to be pure. We have a sense of purity with our work. We cannot be tainted by the smudge of office politics and all the grimy things. And that was how I operated when I was in corporate America land, which wasn't for very long, by the way. I have a unique work history, let's put it that way. I was on the outside looking in for years, and then I came in from the cold. I was the guy that came in from the cold. I basically spent 10 years of my life from roughly, let's call it 8 years, from 1982 to 2000. I was not in your average workforce at all. Not even close. And that was my 30s. I mean, that's a time when most people are really trying to bear down and, be corporate. I was living on the Uranian side of Chiron at that point in time. Now I'm on the Saturnian side of Chiron. It's like, okay, I'm reverse engineering my life. So, but when I was in the corporate world, I was like, hey, I'm just going to work. I'm going to work. I'm going to get my job done. I'm going to be excellent, right? I'm going to have integrity with what I do. I'm going to follow through in everything I do. It wasn't that hard. I would stay late because, quite frankly, I liked staying late. I didn't mind it. They had great computers. This is back in 2000, 2001. They had great computers. They had great speed. So I was able to get online. I was able to do stuff. I didn't mind staying late. It was kind of cool being in that, because I'll tell you why. I didn't mind staying late. Because from 1997 to roughly 2000, I lived in a warehouse. And I worked in an artistic environment, which was edgy. It was an edgy existence. So I came out of that. I was like, ooh, look at this. Nice warm office, nice computers. Oh my gosh, this is great. I'm, in downtown Redwood City. If I wanted to, I could go out and get sushi or a drink or whatever, right? So for me, that was fantastic. For all these other people, they'd been used to that. I'll never forget the first day I came to work, and I had a dog at that time. It was my best dog, and he came with me wherever I went. And I was trying to find a place to live. It was very difficult, and my dog was around 13 and a half, 14. He was old, so he could hang out in my car and sleep. So I'd go out during the day. I'd pick him up and walk him a couple times a day while I was at work. I'll never forget the first day I went to work that day. It was really cold. It was, I think it was the 7th or might have been the 7th of January, just before David Bowie's birthday. Anyway, I go into work and I walk in with this guy, and we couldn't be more different than anybody could match two people with. I mean, this guy was blue blood, right? Not to say that I'm not blue blood. I mean, it could be somewhere in me. You never know. This guy's blue blood, and he'd been in the .com space and the music space, and his mother was a manager for somebody very significant in the music industry. Very, very significant. Let's just say Mr. Significant lives in New Jersey. That's all I'm going to say, okay? So I walk in with this guy, and the vibe, the visceral vibe between the two of us going up in the elevator was really uncomfortable. It was really, because, you know, I had really long hair back then too, right? Very long hair. So we go up in this elevator, and I was like, who is this dude? And as time went on, I could, you know, very quickly ascertain that this was the golden boy of the company because of the relationship with his mother's relationship with Mr. New Jersey. And he had the biggest relationship, which was, at that time, we'd bought RollingStone.com. Our company bought Rolling Stone. So he was the main liaison between our company and RollingStone.com. We got to fly to Chicago a lot. He was tall. He was about 6'3", you know, kind of athletic, sort of metrosexually athletic, right? That was his vibe. And for a long time, I thought to myself, man, this dude is... He's a 180 from me. Total 180. We didn't really connect or click. And then, you know, life is a funny thing. Life is a really, really funny thing. So he gets married. He has this big East Coast wedding. And it's like his life is laid out before him. Laid out before him. This is the version of Apollo, right? He's the Apollo archetype. And then guess what happens? His marriage... Boom! Doesn't work. And I was into electronic music at that time. Still am, not as much as I was then, but that was my thing, electronic music. And every year I'd go to a Winter Music Conference in Miami, which was, man, I could do about 3 or 4 hours on that experience every year. So I go there, and look, we're talking debauchery with a capital D. And there's a U in there, right? That's what it is. So one day I get a phone call from him, and he wants to know, he's there. He says, I'm gonna be down here for Winter Music Conference. This is the guy's Mr. Rock and Roll now. Now he's going over to the dark side, electronic music. And he wants, of course, experience what people experience at electronic music events. Begins with an M, ends with an A. And I say, he wants to know if he can find some of the M and the A. And it's like, oh, can't do that. Don't know. So eventually he kind of becomes a different guy. Right? He becomes, he comes over to the dark side a little bit, you know. At least the dark, and then we wound up becoming actually, you know, we weren't best buddies, but all of a sudden, you know, we have this thing, right? And the thing is that he dealt with an imperfection, and he basically, and it takes a lot of bravery in some ways, I think, on his part, because he had to kill his sacred cow, and his sacred cow was his marriage, and this thing that had been set up in some ways for him to follow along this path. And so what he did is he untangled that, and he had to address the Iranian side of Chiron. It's exactly what he was addressing. Well, we get a little astrology lesson here today. Anyway, so this is what happened. Meanwhile, I'm becoming more structured and having to be more Saturnian in this experience. I liked it, and I saw people drop like flies. You know, this is .com era. They'd come in. I remember the first time we went through a big downsize. Man, talk about a heavy psychic feeling. I mean, I know a lot of you have felt this, like, you know, your company is going through convulsions, and everybody's going, who's going to go? Who's going to go? Who's going to get whacked? Right? Who's going to get whacked? And I remember the first time, it was big, it was bloody, it was messy. And I saw people who would jockey. They would play this relationship, office politics bullshit game. And they would jockey for position. They would align themselves with people. They felt if they aligned themselves with certain people that they would be safe and protected and kind of elevated by their status or their relationship. And I didn't do that. I mean, I'm not saying that I have like some great moral character in the workplace, but I just didn't do that because I didn't feel comfortable with it. To me, it was fake, and it was too tenuous. Because if you align yourself with the wrong person, you're screwed. You're screwed. Anyway, that's what happened in my .com days. And then I went out of it again. I came in for 5 years and then I left. And I tried to go back. And look, I believe you can go home sometimes. Because Thomas Wolfe says you can never go home. You can never return home, whatever that is. I would say sometimes that is true and sometimes that is not true. I think sometimes you can go home and it's important for you to go home. Especially if you've been through something very difficult. You can find healing, you can find support, you can reconnect with your roots. It can actually be a very, very positive experience. But sometimes with jobs you can't go back. And I tried to go back into that industry in 1997. And it was a big non-fit. Big non-fit. And then the next stop after that was this. So there you go. And Charlie Manson, see you later, man. See you later, Manson. Very interesting. Very interesting end of a certain epoch, certain era. So what did we start off this year with? We started off with, very early on, the death of David Rockefeller. And now as the year is shutting down, we have the death of Charlie Manson. How about that? Yep, the death of Charlie Manson. It's an interesting bookend, and the year is not over yet, is it? Now we got a few more days left in the Gregorian calendar. Speaking of work and the workplace, I wanted to bring this story up, which is, I think, worthwhile here. Let me just punch this in. Okay. Oh, man. This is incredible. This is so incredible. I'm gonna read it from the alt-right side. This Apple fired their head of diversity. Okay, if you haven't found this story, Chris Houston, and I knew this. I saw this on Friday. By the way, I was ahead of the dang Church of AI. Okay, I talked about that thing on Friday. Alex Jones is talking about it on Sunday night. All right. Now, of course, it's in the news sphere, right? Of course it is, and he's got all these producers and they're all scouring for ideas and leads and stories. I'm a one-man band. Okay, I got on that thing on Friday, or it wasn't even Friday. It was on Thursday, and then they're coming in on Sunday, and they're building he's building his case against AI on Sunday. Beat him by 4 days on that, and I'm a one-man band. I tell you right now, I'm a gorilla. That's a gorilla with a G-U-R-I-L-L-A. Okay, so here we go. In May, Apple created a pointless position. This is from the alt-right side. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to read it from the alt-right side, and I'm going to read it from the other side. So we're going to get two sides of the story. Let's have a little creative exercise here. In May, Apple created, this is from altright.com. In May, Apple created a pointless position called Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion and filled it with Denise Young-Smith, a black lady and former VP of the company's HR department. Young-Smith's primary job was to lead a team whose purpose was to increase the diversity at Apple. This was to be foremost accomplished by offering training programs to women and underrepresented, not East Asian minorities, and to create a workplace environment that does not discourage women and minorities from applying. Young-Smith was to report directly to Apple CEO Tim Cook. This news was met with positivity and cheers from the mainstream media. I would say that the majority of people hardly thought much of this development. After all, we've been accustomed to these hiring practices. Merit no longer matters in the workplace. Jesus, this is what I was talking about. Only your sex, the color of your skin, and what sexual perversions or mental illnesses you suffer from. The more, the better. And if you're straight, white male, or East Asian, prepare to have your job applications turned down. Or if you're approved, then have fun slaving away with Yolanda and Mykesha, well, like Yolanda and Mykesha gossip about their baby daddies by the coffee machine. And the gay manager talks about nothing but how amazingly gay he is and tries to entice you to give him a blowjob. The aforementioned anecdote is a true story. Then the unexpected happened. On October 9th, at the One Young World Summit in Bogota, Colombia, Denise Young-Smith uttered a few statements during a panel discussion which led to her downfall. The problem? She had a unique perspective on diversity that did not coincide with Apple's vision. According to courts, when asked whether she would be focusing on any group of people, such as black women, in her efforts to create a more inclusive and diverse Apple, Young-Smith says, "I focus on everyone." She added, Diversity is the human experience. I get a little bit frustrated when diversity, or the term diversity, is tagged to the people of color or the women or the LGBT. Whoa! I'll read it again. I focus on everyone, she added. Diversity is the human experience. I get a little bit frustrated when diversity, or the term diversity, is tagged to the people of color or the women or the LGBT. Young-Smith went on to add there could be 12 white, blue-eyed, blonde men in a room, and they're going to be diverse too, because they're going to bring a different life experience and a different life perspective to the conversation. Bang! What did I talk about when I said, when I walked up those stairs, when I took that elevator for the first day at my job in .com land in 2000, January 7th, there were two men, we're both coming from basically the same Northern European gene pool, and we couldn't have been more different. We could not have been more different, okay? I'm coming out of a 1963 Ford Falcon with a 13-year-old black lab retriever mix sleeping in my back seat on a gray day. It was cool. I always took care of my dog. Please, don't accuse me of animal abuse. I wonder if that's going to happen. I wonder if animals are going to come out and talk about abuse. Scientists have just created an amazing new thought-to-speech translator for animals. In this amazing breakthrough, we can finally begin to give our animals the voice they so deservedly deserve. What happens after that?
I remember one time, he gave me dry food instead of wet food. I was angry. I peed. And then he spanked my fanny.
I'm sorry. I was a bit ignorant about how to raise a pet at that point in time in my life. I had grown up in a family where we after the dog went to the bathroom in the house, we spanked the dog. Well, how was I to know that spanking the dog was wrong? And that really I should have just fed him the way. How was I supposed to know? I was young. I didn't understand how to raise a dog. I raised the dog the same way my parents raised a dog. Yes, I'm going to go through counseling and hours of therapy in order to understand and correct this deep-seated behavior so I don't spank another dog or any other animal again. Her statement was countered by Black Lives Matter, D. Ray McKesson. This is the guy who says he's an actor, by the way. I'm an actor in life. I don't know what my next stage or performance is going to be, but I'm an actor in life. Just give me the lead. That's all I ask. Who was at the event for unfathomable reasons and warned not to forget about the existence of white privilege when considering who to hire in the workplace. White people say to me all the time, like D. Ray, I worked really hard for this. I worked hard. You didn't work hard for every Band-Aid to look like you, for every baby doll to look like you, for the world to treat you as human and everything as other is not the result of your personal hard work. That's what white privilege is. If white privilege means losing workplace opportunities due to your skin color despite clearly being the most qualified, then black privilege is resulting to threats and emotional fits to get things for free for inadequate performance. And remember, this is the alt-right side. I'm going to read you the left side. We're going to do equal time here. Both of these are terrible since businesses won't get the best people, and blacks will be subconsciously conditioned to work with less ambition, since companies will hire them just for the purpose of fulfilling arbitrary quotas. Media initially reported on Denise Young-Smith's statements in a fair tone, since they weren't sure how to handle an educated black woman who'd been heralded as the most powerful woman in Silicon Valley. Check that out. Then the criticism began, followed by demands to apologize, and then she caved and released a written statement. Last week, while attending a summit in Bogota, I made some comments as part of conversation on the many factors that contribute to diversity and inclusion. I regret the choice of words I used to make this point. I understand why some people took offense. My comments were not representative of how I think about diversity or how Apple sees it. For that, I'm sorry. Apple's latest statistics show the majority of their new hires are from ethnic minorities. The company's page on diversity reveals that they take the same approach to hiring humans as do biologists in collecting Lepidoptera. That's butterflies for you at home. Or kids catching Pokemon. On display on the page is every race and type of person with each a personal, inspirational story, including a blind guy with a dog. CEO Tim Cook is a man determined to collect as many ethnic minorities and women as possible. Maybe now that Denise Young-Smith is gone, who seemed too friendly to the notion of working with a team of handsome blonde engineers, and if he tries really hard, he can catch the elusive transsexual black ginger Muslim with a speech impediment and a Holocaust survivor grandma, and then he would be the greatest Pokemon master, crossed out tech leader in the world. On a serious note, to demonstrate Tim Cook's dead set attitude, here's what he said in an interview with the Auburn Plainsman. Women are such an important part of the workforce. If STEM-related fields continue to have this low representation of women, then there just will not be enough innovation in the United States. That's just the simple face of it. Another Apple spokesperson said a similar thing. We deeply believe that diversity drives innovation. Do you think Steve Jobs would have said that? Do you think that would have come out of Steve Jobs' mouth? Steve Jobs would have said, I'm going to hire the best damn person possible. That's what he would have said. Doesn't matter. This goes on and on. I'll just finish this out. I have no idea where the belief came from that less women in STEM fields will slow advances in technology. It is intelligent men who drive civilization. Remember, this is the alt-right now. With few exceptions, women are naturally better suited to being caretakers at home, though I'm not advocating for them to not work at all. Instead of high-level businessmen in multinational corporations, countless studies and articles prove that women are happier and more stressed out than ever. Due to being pushed into more and more demanding jobs, companies are building special scented relaxation rooms and outdoor cafes just to combat the problem. Women's relationships with men are falling apart as they nag their partners to death while children are suffering in daycares without their mothers. But all this matters not. The efforts of companies like Apple to chain women to their office desks will ultimately fail. Before long, as women will wake up and realize that social engineering is leading them into a hopelessly lonely place where they trade their youth, fertility, mental well-being, and loving relationships for jobs in which they can be replaced due to the slightest thoughtless comment. Okay, ladies of the world, your time as the apex employee in corporate Earth is coming to an end. Okay, I'm just going to give you the headline right now. It has nothing to do with men getting stronger, better, wiser, more aggressive. Has nothing to do with with laws enacted to somehow reincorporate men in the workplace. No, ladies of the world, at the apex of corporate Earth, artificial intelligence is going to replace you. It's going to replace the majority of us. So your spot on the top of the mountain with your special status has an expiration date. But don't take it personally. We're all there for the most part. Now, here is what would be really great is if we re-engineered our economy, if we re-engineered how we produce things, if we re-engineered our distribution networks, right? If we somehow came up with an answer to Amazon. Amazon's got Amazon Go, 1,400 square foot stores. What if we had a similar version, but was run by other people, without the Go? What if there were kind of shop stores that were about local trade, farm to market, farm to table, farm to table. Basically taking this whole kind of village concept. You take the village concept, and it's all just goods and food and products that meet a certain criterion, right? And you actually have humans working there, and there'll be a human checkout experience. But it's done so well that you could have thousands of these, but they're not huge. They're like 1,500 square feet, but they're all high quality, right? And then if you have enough of these, let's say you have 200 of these places, then you can afford to buy, because you'll have two. This is what Trader Joe's did and what made Trader Joe's really special. Number one, they started off finding all these off-brand products. They got them from Europe. They got them from like the first time I ever had Gerolsteiner, which is still, I think, one of the greatest sparkling waters of all time. It was at Trader Joe's. I bought it for 95 cents. 95 cents for Gerolsteiner. Oh, it was great, man. The most aggressive bubbles I'd ever had. That bottle of Gerolsteiner now is almost $2, so it's gone up. Maybe in some places even more. But I remember getting it. It was like exotic. I remember bringing it to a party. Nobody had ever seen Gerolsteiner before. Ooh, what's that? It's a great sparkling water from Germany. Now it's pretty ubiquitous. But that's how Trader Joe's made their mark. And then eventually they began to produce their own products, which became pretty interesting. So one could say that Trader Joe's is kind of a version of that. But I think there could be next level, right? So what would happen is you'd have basically 3 product sources. You'd have kind of a national brand product source where you would selectively find things from national vendors that would fit under the rubric of this genre, which would be kind of the maker genre, farm to table genre, it kind of organic, certainly organic, and then also as much kind of local goods. Think of like, in some ways, think of a storefront, a physical storefront for a part of Etsy, okay? But it would be selective. Maybe you make it 2,000 square feet. Let's throw a number extra. So you have the national kind of product chain, which you could buy in bulk. So you'd save money. Then you would drop down, and then you would find the local stuff where people are actually producing things locally, and you'd incorporate them. Okay? And then you could actually do like Alex Jones is doing, have your own product line based on, having the stuff made here in this country. Then you meet these 3 criterion. You're meeting a cost-effective kind of massive I wouldn't say massive district, but massive inventory where you get discounts, the local flavor, and then your own product line that ultimately you create based on all these factors that we're talking about. And you put humans in there, and you gauge, and you say that this is really what we're doing here. We're creating, we could call it Humart. How's that? Humart. I just came up with a multi-billion-dollar concept, Humart. I don't know, maybe it would fail. Maybe people are just too indoctrinated into something that's easy. But I'd like to think we could do something like that. That's what I'd like to do. That's what I'd like to think. That's what I talk about re-engineering, sort of our experience. Okay, here, let me finish the story. It says, but all this matters not. The efforts of companies like Apple to chain women to their office desks will ultimately fail. Before long, women will wake up and realize that social engineering is leading them into a hopelessly lonely place where they trade their youth, fertility, mental well-being, and loving relationships for jobs in which they can be replaced due to the slightest thoughtless comments. You see, that's the AI interface about being replaced. Another good takeaway from this situation is that many people out there in unexpected places like Denise Young-Smith who secretly know that the whole diversity game is dangerous nonsense. Soon things will come crashing down. It'll time to build anew. Okay, that's from the right. Oh, by the way, the author of that piece was Melissa Mazaros. Melissa is a Hungarian-American writer, editor, and translator who spent her first half of her life in central New Jersey before relocating to Hungary. Today from Hungary, she pursues a career in thought crime and YouTubing. With her significant other, is working towards building a loving home full of children and cats. Okay, that's a great bio. All right, so that's on the on the alt-right side, okay? How about from the Daily Caller, which is clearly on the liberal side, okay? Let's see what we got here. So let's make sure I've got this right. Hold on a second. Oh, come on. I hate this. Get back. Hold on, here we go. Let me find. I want to find something on the left side because I want to make sure. I want to be representative here. I want to be representative. I don't want zero hedge. Not that. No, definitely not that. It's really interesting. You know, you're looking at this story here, and I'm looking at the results for the story on Google, and most of the things that are popping up are on the on the right side a little bit. Let me see. How about The Verge? Let's check this out. Let's see. Here we go. Jeffrey Tambor has quit Transparent because of the sexual allegations. How about that? Let me go back to the Daily Caller. I think that might be probably the best. Although it popped up a pop-up. Stay away, pop-up. Stay away. Okay, so here we go. Grace Carr, another woman here is the reporter. Apple fired its diversity chief after she made statements allowing that white people can come from a diversity of backgrounds. There are going to be 12 white, blue-eyed, blonde men in a room, and they're going to be diverse too. We know the story. Okay, we just said diversity is a human experience. Her remarks did not sit well with some who interpreted her language as a sign of support for what many considered a male hierarchy at the tech giant, given that most of the leadership positions are not held by minorities. As of 2017, 3% of Apple's leaders were black, 23% of total tech jobs were filled by women. Smith previously headed up Apple's worldwide human resources for 20 years, never running into problematic statements with the company or its higher-ups. Smith later apologized for her statements, saying, "We're not representative of how I think about diversity or how Apple sees it," the Post reported. Smith was hired in May, will leave the position at the end of the year, making her tenure 6 months. "We deeply believe that diversity drives innovation," an Apple spokesman told TechCrunch in a statement explaining that they have hired a new chief who will work toward a more diverse place. Apple's diversity report says 50% of new hires are from historically underrepresented groups in tech. And that's the end. That is the end of that story. Now, the Daily Caller is, generally speaking, on the left side. On the left side of the equation. Gizmodo, which is a tech magazine or tech site, has its own take. Sidney Fusell is the author of this piece. Let's see if there's a... So here's what Gizmodo says. Of course, this is the type of banal universalism that Silicon Valley thrives on. When Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg defended the inclusion of Peter Thiel, self-described libertarian Trump supporter of the company's entirely white majority male board last year, he argued Thiel's support of Trump was in line with the company's commitment to diversity. Similarly, James Damore, whose Google memo had seismic impacts on the diversity conversations, repeatedly said he and other like-minded white men are marginalized by Silicon Valley because of their beliefs, arguing he was fired for railing against an ideological echo chamber. It's all so insipid. Ideological diversity is crucial, but positioning against traditional definitions of diversity, as though hiring women and minorities means building an ideological monolith, is insulting and absurd. Young Smith's comments seemed especially tone deaf, given that Apple's diversity numbers are so pitifully unremarkable. The company's annual report shows 83% of tech employees are white or Asian, with everyone else making up the other 70%. Young Smith apologized shortly afterwards, saying Apple's view of our dedication to diversity has not changed. It is unfortunate her lengthy career at the company will be largely defined by an offhand comment, especially since it's no different from what's probably said in boardrooms across America. In time, her legacy may include her work laying foundation for Apple's diversity scholarship funds. Maybe future recipients can make the sorts of long-lasting changes to the company that embody broader definitions of diversity that was scribbled on those yearly reports. I don't understand where this person is coming from, to be honest with you. Yeah, I just don't get it. So, let's see. So she's going to go to Cornell Tech. She's going to be part of the... she's going to have in the executive in residency there. In October, she faced a backlash for ill-advised comments on diversity at a panel moderated by Quartz's Amna Mohideen. Okay, her comments described as TechCrunch, of course, is typical banal universalism. So Gizmodo is basically coming out and bashing Denise Young Smith. So I'm trying to piece together how we interpret an event or how we interpret news. So from the alt-right side, this woman is heroic in some ways, and she's being crucified because in her mind she's speaking the truth. The DC Caller side gave it its due, but it just dropped it, right? There wasn't any editorializing on it. They reported it and it was done. And on the Gizmodo side, you have somebody who's basically coming out saying she's a lackey for management. And what he fails to mention, though, in this story, where Mark Zuckerberg embraces Peter Thiel, is he does not mention that Peter Thiel is gay. Okay? He doesn't mention Peter Thiel is gay. He may be part robot, too, for all we know. But he doesn't mention that. He just says that Zuckerberg endorses him. He endorses him because he's a Trump supporter. Because he's a Trump supporter, that represents some kind of diversity. It kind of does, to be honest with you. And I'm not backing Mark Zuckerberg, but the reporter here fails to mention that Peter Thiel's gay. Not that it really matters, but if they're looking to fill from a place of diversity, Peter Thiel, first of all, Peter Thiel's not from this country. He's not an American, and he's gay. Come on now, how diverse is that? And he might be a robot, or part robot for all we know at this point. Super diverse. Anyway. All right, I wanted to get into that just for a little bit because it's insanity. It's total insanity. You know, why couldn't she? Okay. Why couldn't she say, you know what? I firmly believe what I said, and I'm getting ready to get fired from this job, and you can kiss my ass. And if I don't work again for the rest of my life, at least I went out on my own terms. Why doesn't anybody ever say that? Because homelessness in America is a bitch. I'm telling you right now. You don't want to be in a place. This is hard, man. We're living in hard times. These are difficult times. So as we get through more difficult times, then people will conform more because they have more to lose. You know, if there's always a fallback position, or you had a family that you had some connections with, you had money in the bank, or whatever it was, you could take a risk. You could say, I'm not doing this, or I'm going to stand for this, because there was a possibility that you could get kind of rerouted in your own life, and it would be fine. Now the stakes are a bit higher. You know, you try going without work for a couple of months in our society, 2 or 3 months. I mean, you're in a heap of trouble. All right, I think that's about it. Here's what I'm going to do today, though. I'm going to play something a little risky in some ways. Risky in the sense that, well, you're not going to be offended by it, but you'll know. I'm going to play it. I'm going to see what happens. It's kind of an experiment with our friends at YouTube. I'm going to play a remix of Helter Skelter. Take you out on that. And I think this is it. I think this is where we are for the rest of the week. I just wanted to get in one more show. I will have, if you follow me on Facebook, I think the interview with Regina Meredith is going to go live either today or tomorrow. So check me out on Facebook. And I'm going to be working on, and this is going to be, I'm going to have this special on my website. I'm going to have 2 specials on my website coming up here. This is kind of like my Cyber Friday stuff, although I'm going to run it a little bit earlier. I'm going to make it so affordable for a person to buy multiple readings. These are going to be half-hour readings, okay? Half-hour readings. That's all they are, half-hour readings. Well, it's not all there. You can get a lot done in a half hour. But I'm going to make it affordable so you can buy a package of half-hour readings. So this is going to be good. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer 3 half-hour readings for the price of 1 full reading. Okay? It's a pretty good deal. So if you wanted to get multiple readings and give them away for gifts, these are half-hour readings. They're not 45-minute readings. They're not 1 hour. They're half-hour readings. They're perfect for gifts. Now, if you want to give a gift to yourself, you want to get 3 half-hour readings. That's fine. There's no thing that says, hey, you got to, use these readings for other people. Okay, that's good. That's a deal that's coming up on my website, and I'm going to have that starting sometime this week. So keep coming back to my website. And I'm also going to have a very short special on my course. Okay, that's going to be a 3-day event, and that's going to be starting on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So here's what's going to happen with my course. For 3 days, 3 days only, you will get my course for half off. For 3 days only. It's a half off sale. It's huge. Now, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? It's going to be 48 hours. There's a small window, 48 hours. 48 hours. Half off for 48 hours. It's going to start on Friday. It'll end on Sunday. So if you want to gift the course to somebody else, you want to buy the course for yourself, you got a small window, half off. That's it. And the multiple readings, that'll be going on. That'll start this week. It'll start on Friday. And I'll have that up through a couple of days before Christmas. It's a great gift if you're looking last minute, if you're looking for a gift to give somebody. I'll also have, maybe a 2-for-1 or 2-for where, you can get one and you can buy one for your friend. That'll be another option. So those are some of the things to look forward to on the website side. And that's it. Thanks for hanging in there. Did almost an hour today. And I'm sure I probably stepped on some toes today. Who cares? It's okay. I do my best to, be universal in the toe stepping. All right. Let's try this. Let's get out of here with a little bit of remix of Helter Skelter. I'm Robert Phoenix. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart, too. Stay open what's possible.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!